Well, hi there. My name is Mike Affelberg, and I am the president of the United Way of Greater Nashua. I'm also the host of this show, and this show is called Living United with Nashua Business. Typically, this show is all about introducing you to businesses, small, medium, and large in our community that are doing great work, giving back through philanthropy, volunteerism, and otherwise supporting the community. Today's a little bit special. Different kind of a show. I wanted to introduce you to one of our great local nonprofits that's helping kids to get access to dental health care, which is affordable and oh so important. So I'm going to introduce you now to my friend Myra Nikitas.
Hey,
Myra,
Mike, thank
Myra
you so much.
is the Traveling Tooth Fairy.
Yes,
and that is actually the name of your nonprofit, the Traveling Tooth Fairies. I love that so much, Myra.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. And
you know, I was having a toothache last night when I went to bed, and I woke up in the morning, and look what was underneath my pillow.
No way.
It was a quarter from the Tooth Fairy. How does that happen?
I love it. I love it.
It's all yours. Keep it. It's like,
I'm going to cherish this.
This is as much pay as anyone ever gets to be on my show. So congratulations.
Thank you. I will tell you, the going rate for the Tooth Fairy these days, of what I've heard, is
it's more than a quarter.
$5 a tooth.
I can believe that it's $5. I would just not participate in that. That feels like a tooth Ponzi scheme.
Right,
to me.
Highway robbery, right?
For
in
sure.
some ways, but
so the Traveling Tooth Fairies. We have a lot of props here. We're going to get to all of that.
Yes.
You know, I've heard over time that the number one reason why kids miss a day or more of school is because of a toothache, an untreated, unattended to toothache. Is that true?
It is true. The number one reason why a child will miss school is because of an oral health related reason. So, you know, Mike,
that's unbelievable.
In our program, exactly. If we can prevent one kid from having a toothache and contributing to that statistic, we've done our job.
Yeah, you know, and you miss a day of school, and it's more than just that one day. Typically, it's going to be a couple of days. You're missing the homework. You get lost in whatever you're doing academically. We see those kids on our end, on the tutoring side, and they've missed a couple days, and before you know it, you are falling behind.
For sure.
Especially if you're in, say, middle school or high school. That is so important. You're there literally every single day.
For sure. And you know, you have to think, if you have a toothache, can you concentrate on your schoolwork?
Yeah.
Can you socialize with your friends? Can you, you really, I mean, it impedes on your whole life, really.
Yeah.
So these kids that go to school and have a toothache do miss days at a time at school. And then, you know, if they're pulled out for different services, they're missing those services.
Right.
So it really is it's a domino effect or a snowball effect, because the problem continues to get bigger. And so, you know, other things just don't get resolved.
Absolutely. So you and I have known each other a long time.
A long time.
And you have been you're a dental hygienist.
I am.
And a public health dental hygienist by training.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your passion as a dental hygienist and how you're bringing that to the lower, you know, kids space, if you will, in our community.
Sure. So I've been a hygienist, registered dental hygienist for over 20 years. And I recently got my certification in public health for the last 8 years or so. So what that means, I can practice in community health settings. I can go to schools. I can go to other areas where a dentist is not in the facility with me. So it gives me that within my scope of practice, I can be able to provide services to kids or, you know, adults or whoever. So it's a kind of an extra kind of certificate beyond my schooling that I've achieved.
Fantastic. And then with that education and experience, you decided to start this, what started as an initiative.
Yes.
And is now a full-fledged nonprofit.
Yes.
Serving kids in our community. So tell us about the Traveling Tooth Fairy.
So
what do you do?
Last year, it was a pilot program that was funded by the CDC, the Department of Health and Human Services. And unfortunately, the funding did not continue.
Sure.
Knowing what I saw day to day with these kids, it was very eye-opening to me that, you know, this program has to continue somehow. So My colleague and I, Myra
Yeah.
Nikitas, got together, who's another public health hygienist, and we put this nonprofit traveling tooth fairies
Yeah.
together to help kind of broaden our resources for funding. So we're tax exempt or 501c3.
So you're actually legitimately a 501c3
Yes.
tax exempt nonprofit
Yes.
charity, so people can donate to you.
Yes, absolutely.
Or you can apply for grants.
You can apply for grants, and that's what we really wanted. And
Yep.
in some way, I don't want to say unfortunately, but our program really is here, and it's going to continue with the generosity of the community.
Yep.
So with that being said, we rely heavily on grants because that's our only way really for funding.
Right.
As hygienists, we cannot bill directly to any insurance company and get reimbursed. We're very limited on the services we can bill to Medicaid in the frequency. So we do have that opportunity, but it's not something that's really going to generate a lot of revenue to cover costs associated with this program.
So you've received some grant funding through who has helped out with some of that?
So we're so grateful through the generosity of Northeast Delta Dental. They contributed and provided funding for this year.
Our friend Tom.
Thank you, our friend Tom.
Yeah.
And also the Lions Club in Nashua as well has
Wonderful.
contributed. So again, we rely heavily on just the funds and the generosity of the community to keep this program going. And it's not only the services, Mike, that we provide to kids in the school that these funds go to. We also allocate funds for kids that need treatment beyond our scope in the schools that we're able to provide. So we connect them to a provider. If a child has an abscess tooth or a hot tooth or an infected tooth.
Let's step back from that and talk about who are you serving?
Yes.
And we will get to those referrals in a second.
Sure.
Who are you serving and how do they connect to your services and what services do they receive from you?
So our program is open to all kids, all Nashua school age kids.
Okay.
So from pre-K to high school, so age, grade 12.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter if they have insurance, no insurance, private insurance. This program is open to any and all kids within the Nashua community who, go to school in Nashua. So we've even extended our services to the Micro Society school as well. So, and that being said, the services that we provide are oral screenings, just taking kind of a peek around the mouth.
Okay.
It's not an exam. And these services don't take the place of your, services that you would get at a dental practice if you're going to a dental practice regularly. They're here to complement those services. So your dentist still needs to do an exam. So an oral screening is very different from an oral exam that a dentist does.
But I would guess that with some of the lower income kids, they might actually never go to the dentist.
For sure.
Is that something you find?
Absolutely. We've seen kids, age 10, 12 that have never been to the dentist.
Oh,
so
hard to believe.
Us providing care, these kids, we've given them some parents a relief of what we've seen. We went to go see a child once. We were just going to put sealants on the teeth. The kid was, looked great. This was a story that came from the school at New Searles.
Yeah.
We were called, and the kid had a major infection. So, the kid was not having any symptoms, but yet we made mom or dad aware of this problem. So, again, that goes with a screening because we're looking to make sure that there's no active infection in the mouth, right? Mm-hmm. We're providing dental sealants. So a dental sealant is a thin coating that kind of goes on.
Oh, I love the props.
Here we go. Got the prop.
Hold on. Do we need any of the other props?
No.
I want to
to hold the mirror.
The mirror. I love the mirror, and I love the toothbrush.
Love it.
So let me know when
you can
my
play dentist.
part.
Yes. So the dental sealant is a thin coating that goes on these back teeth. So these teeth back here are very difficult to keep clean, especially they
those
got
are like
really
your
deep,
molars, right?
Molars. They get really deep grooves. So food gets stuck in those, bacteria collects those, and that's how a cavity develops in those back teeth. When we provide a sealant, we're kind of sealing off those grooves, kind of putting that thin coating there to protect that area so that food isn't going to get lodged there. Okay. So it's smoother for when you're cleaning it. Food just
and what kind of material
off.
is that?
So the sealants are a glass ionomer material, and it's kind of a self-curing material. So it kind of hardens by itself. There's no light. The material is fluoride releasing. So over time, every time your child brushes their teeth, that kind of activates the fluoride ions and kind of energizes that filling material to kind of keep that bacteria away. So it's bacteriostatic. It helps keep bacteria away.
And how long does that sealant last?
Honestly, Mike, I've had sealants in my teeth since for like the last 10, 15 years.
Okay.
So it can last a very, very long time.
So
it
it's
can last
very
2
hard.
years. It's
so
a
the
very
glass
hard
ionomer
material.
is very hard material.
Tooth colored, so you don't really see it. And it just hardens on the surface of the tooth. So that's one of the services we provide.
Now, do you recommend that for every child, really?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So statistically, it's helped prevent 80% of cavities. Sealants prevent 80% of the cavities in the back teeth.
For adult teeth, baby teeth, all teeth?
All teeth. All teeth.
Interesting.
Yep. So if I have a tooth that has a virgin groove, I will seal it. I will put something on there to protect that tooth. I have to think when I'm treating these kids, if this is the last time I would ever see, this child ever be seen by a dental provider, what can I offer them? Because you never know what tomorrow, may bring.
Right. So what if there is already some developing decay? Can you do anything with that?
Yes, absolutely. So another service that we provide is silver diamine fluoride. And that's like our go-to magic potion material that kind of stops the progression of a cavity. So if a child has any inkling of, some decay in these grooves of the teeth, that sealant will stop the decay, the material that we're placing. However, if a child has a really big cavity in that tooth, it's not pulpily involved. And I mean, it's not to the point where it's gotten an infection or hit the nerve of the tooth. We're able to place the silver diamine fluoride. And it's a material we just brush right on the teeth.
Okay. And does that need to be cured in some way?
Does not. No.
Okay.
It's just a little brush. We paint it on. The only caveat to it is it tastes horrible. And we warn these kids. And that's the thing, Mike. Everything that we do with our students, we tell them, now we're going to use a brush. We're going to paint this on. And I tell them, very honest, this isn't going to taste very good. And, they're aware of that. So there's no surprises.
Painful.
It's not painful. There's no drills. There's no filling. We use these tiny little micro brushes to put the sealant material on the tooth, the silver diamine fluoride, and protective restorations, which is something that, if a back tooth has a giant hole and it's collecting a ton of food, it's going to continue to get worse. So I'm able to kind of clean that out with just a brush. And then place that protective restoration and kind of plugs that hole. Same material, that glass ionomer material.
Same material.
And it kind of, stops that decay, and it kind of plugs that hole for that child, so they're not getting any. So
after you do something like that, those types of procedures, at that point, do you refer the child to the dentist, or is that pretty much like done and the kid's good to go?
It depends. So if it's a permanent tooth and the kid's got a whopping hole in it, I'll cover it for now, but I'll recommend that they see a dental provider to kind of see if there's any other treatment that's necessary. All the services that we're providing to these kids are all evidence-based. So they're nationally known as, stopping decay. It's not something that we, put together on a fly here. This is something that's, been around for a long time.
That's not you guys didn't cook this up in your garage with mixing Elmer's glue and sand. Right.
These are all materials that have been around for a very long time. They're safe. And,
Are the materials expensive?
They are. They are very expensive.
And so I'm guessing that a lot of the funding that you receive pays for the materials and your time.
And so just to kind of put things in perspective, so one box of those little capsules of that glass ionomer material is about $50 in a box. And that's probably about $400 a box.
And that's enough to treat how many?
We could go through 4 or 5 capsules on one kid. Like that.
A lot.
Yeah. So, sometimes one box could last us a week, sometimes a couple days. It really just depends. Up until now, from last year till this point, we still have 5 schools to go. We've seen and treated over 1,400 kids.
So when you go into a school, do you set up basically an appointment time, and
We do.
kids you just kind of crank them through the system, or do they have to set up an appointment?
No. So, we work very closely with each nurse at each school or support staff to really coordinate this. So what we do is we drop off the consent forms. We pick up the consent forms in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
When we pick up those consent forms, we put all those students in our system. So by the time we're going to, this school, we have, say, 100 kids to see, we'll put each, say about 20 kids a day. So on average, we're there for about a week at a school at a time. So we'll kind of put a mock schedule. We hand that to the schedule to the support staff or nurse or whoever is assigned to help us. And I will say, we're like the dream team because we have a great team of individuals from every school. We work so well together.
Right.
And I'm just so thankful that everybody just appreciates our mission and supports it so well as they have. So when we're there, it is a little bit of a disruption because, we're setting up, we're in a small area, we bring our equipment and everything into the school. We're seeing these kids where they're at, and that alone, is just, it's a big help.
Do you get a lot of objections from parents who maybe don't want to sign the consent form and they're suspicious or
Not at all. So a child that say if you want your child to be included in this program, you sign the consent form and send it back. So every child who has a consent form gets seen. If we go to the school and the child's out that week, they're out sick, they're abroad, whatever the reason, we will come back to that school and make sure that child is seen. Because if the parent signed the consent form, to me, there's a barrier. And our mission is to help reduce these barriers for care, whether it be transportation, cost, whatever it may be.
I can imagine part of your program, besides looking in the mouth, doing the screening and treating the teeth, is education.
Yes, absolutely.
What would the conversation look like with the child? What do you tell them? And
so
how do you give them information?
The toothbrush.
Well, I bet you the green toothbrush isn't a good choice.
Oh, yes.
I think we should choose the yellow toothbrush.
Yes, I think you're right.
Because we do have a green screen behind us.
I forgot about that. So we go over toothbrushing with a child. So either we have a toothbrush we give them, and we, show them how to brush their teeth, or, we say to them, here's the toothbrush. Can you show us how you're brushing your teeth?
Oh, on the big model.
On the big model. Yeah. So, I always give them homework. I said, this is your homework, brush your teeth twice a day. But I tell them why, right? Bacteria on your teeth, or you gotta, you can't just go, wash your hands, or you gotta tell them, wash your hands because you want to get the germs off. You don't want to get sick. Same thing, brush your teeth. You don't want to, prevent cavities. So when I dress up as a tooth fairy and I go and talk to all these kids, I really drive home that, bacteria, and that's what's going to eat away at your tooth.
Myra, what about flossing?
Flossing, just as important.
You talk with kids about flossing?
We do. Yeah, we talk about flossing. I'm old school, wrap the floss around my fingers kind of girl, but, I'm all for the floss picks, whatever's going to get the job done and get you in the habit of doing it. And we hand those out with every student. We hand out a new toothbrush, a sample of toothpaste, and the floss picks. There's like 3 in a pack for students. And we go over that with them too, and how to use them. You can reuse them until they get kind of gross and rinse them off. Mike, it's sad, but we've seen kids who don't even have a toothbrush. We've seen kids that share a toothbrush with a sibling. So, that to me is very sad in this day and age, in the world we live in, because...
Well, you and I have talked about this. I was in Honduras with the dental outreach team there, and I think everything that you see is probably just more extreme. In that as well. But I found the education to be probably the most important thing. Talking with kids and their parents about the importance of flossing, the importance of not eating sugary foods, brushing your teeth after eating sugary foods, that kind of thing. Which brings me to the question I wanted to ask you about the diversity in our community. We have a very diverse community, a lot of languages spoken.
Yes.
I know from my work that I use Google Translate a lot, and I end up, doing things with people in Swahili using Google Translate. I imagine you don't know every language in the community.
No.
How does this work if somebody speaks Swahili or French or, Portuguese or Spanish or whatever the case may be?
So we kind of took the 5 predominantly spoken languages in the community. We translated those in our consent form. So from English, we have 5 different languages that they're translated into for families. And we communicate with the nurses, like how many, Portuguese forms do you need? How many
Got it.
Spanish forms or whatever? The forms that we sent home for the parents, kind of like their report card, right? The services that we completed and the recommendations. So we have those translated as well. So I'll ask a kid, what language, do you primarily speak at home? And if they say English or Portuguese or Spanish, then, that's the letter that they're going to get home.
That's important because a lot of the kids speak English,
Right.
but their parents might not. And
Exactly.
I've seen many cases where the child is actually the predominant translator in the family.
Yes, for sure. And I'm so lucky that my assistant that I work with, she is Spanish as well.
Okay.
So, that's huge. And speaking and communicating with some of these kids.
Do you speak any foreign languages, Myra?
Greek. That's the only language I speak.
German, and this is not helpful, right?
Right. I mean, I've yet to see one Greek child that I need to, but
it'll happen.
Translate for them. I'm waiting for that.
Right. You mentioned also other, more intensive services.
Yes.
So child comes to you and maybe they have decay that needs treatment beyond what you can provide.
Yes.
What happens at that point?
So if something is beyond our scope that we can provide in the school, we'll connect the child with a provider.
Okay.
We'll call mom, dad, parent, guardian, whoever, and let them know we saw, little Johnny today. This is what we saw. This is what we recommend. And we'll connect him with that provider. I'm on, the phone with one of the 3 offices that I refer to. So we have Dr. Haas, Monshire Pediatrics, and then a general practitioner, Dr. Sumer Parakel, who's over in Hudson.
Okay.
So refer one of those kids. Whoever can get them in the soonest is who I go for.
Okay.
So if I call one of them and they say, well, probably looking at, a month. Okay, thanks. I'll call back, or I'll find.
Sure.
If they have a cancellation list, they're willing to put a child on there. I just collaborated with Dr. Haas's office. We had like 5 or 6 kids from one school. Gave them, phone numbers and parent, guardian information.
And they were able to help.
And they will contact them and say, okay, let's get them scheduled or whatever. So I don't want to leave a child with just a letter that goes home saying, hey, you've got a whopping abscess, you need treatment. Because if that paper, gets lost, doesn't go in his book bag or whatever, flies out of his backpack on the bus, who knows? That parent doesn't know what's going on. So we really try, call the parent. I'll ask the nurse, what's a good best number to get in touch with them?
Yeah.
Call the parent, let them know, connect them with the provider if they don't have one. And again, financially too, if it's a financial burden on these families to, take the child, we'll cover that cost, Mike.
Okay.
We've even paid for car service to take a child to an appointment. So
What if the family can't afford the actual dental service?
we pay for that. We pay for that.
That's incredible.
I mean,
so that's
we've
part of
had-
your grant funding.
Yes, we put
Fantastic.
some, money aside, and that's what I'm saying is, we rely heavily, the grant itself, to provide care for kids, but there's some kids that need
And
additional
hopefully,
care.
if those families can't afford those services, then they would be on Medicaid.
Yes.
And have
yes.
the expanded Medicaid
Yes.
benefits for dental
And-
support.
Right, we hope, but some don't.
Yeah.
And if it's a financial burden, we'll cover the cost of that treatment. We've paid for kids to have teeth extracted. We've paid for kids to have, some other additional services done. We just got a call last week about a child that needs some braces, and parents don't know where to turn and asked
Sure.
if we would take a look. Or we've paid for a child to have braces removed because he came from Ecuador and needed the braces off. Financially,
Sure.
he couldn't afford it.
Okay. So what is next for the Traveling Tooth Fairies? Looking out 5 years, looking in your crystal ball here,
Yes,
Myra, what does it look like?
My hope and my dream, Mike, is that we expand this program to various areas in the state.
Okay.
I'm trying
Does
to,
this exist in any other part of the state?
They had some other similar school-based programs.
Okay.
Okay. Some very similar to the services we provide. Some
Yeah.
offer cleaning. Some just do cleanings and fluoride. So it
But
just
there's probably
depends.
lots of parts of the state where there's a big gap.
Yes. And certified public health hygienists are the only ones that can provide these services.
Okay.
So in, a clinical setting, like
Yeah.
outside of a dental practice or dental office.
Sure.
So, my hope is to build a business model that can be replicated and, expand these services.
That's really fantastic. How many children did you say you serve typically a year?
So from last year, this year already, we're up to about 1,400 kids. This year
In
alone,
this school year?
This school year, we're probably about 750.
That's
We
amazing.
still have 5 schools to go.
That's amazing. So you set up shop in a school. You're there for a couple of weeks.
Minimally, probably a week.
Okay.
Yeah, but it just depends on the influx of students. So some schools we may have 25. Some schools may have over 100. It just
Right.
depends.
Right. Probably depends on the demographics of the particular
Yes.
school that you're
Yes.
going into.
And we always start this year and last year. I always start with the schools that have the highest free and reduced lunch rate.
Sure.
Just because I feel like those are the schools that need some services more.
I feel like in middle schools and high schools, beyond the academics
Yes.
of missing a day of school, there's also the social aspect of, we lead with our smiles, right? As social creatures, we lead with our
Sure.
smiles. It means we lead with our teeth.
Yes.
How do you find that your services also help kids socially?
I feel like it gives them confidence.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to build here, is giving them confidence. I saw a child that was, 5 years old. She walked into our room. She didn't want to open her mouth, and she was like this. She was very shy.
5 years old.
5 years old and very ashamed of her teeth.
Yeah,
and
of course.
we helped her. And by the time she left, she was smiling. She was happy. Her teachers, complimented on our services. So all in all, each child too, you're missing about
Yeah.
15 to 20 minutes of school time. We don't
Yeah.
pull these kids out during recess, lunch, or specialist,
Sure.
anything fun. But building their confidence and
Yeah.
having them smile again.
It makes all the difference,
Makes
Myra.
all
I have
the
to say,
difference.
so there's also a mental health outcome, there's a social outcome, there's a health outcome, there's an academic outcome. My
Yes.
goodness, what are you not doing?
Right?
It's amazing. Look, we're out of time, Myra.
Thank
I
you
just wanted
so
to thank
much.
you for coming and talking
Thank
with us
you.
today about the Traveling Tooth Fairies. Do you have a
Thank you.
website people can
We
look
do.
for?
It is www.traveling, all one word, travelingtoothfairies.com.
TravelingToothFairies.com. Anybody watching forgets about all of that and
Yes.
just wants to know, ping me at United Way and I'll
Thank you,
connect
Mike.
you.
Thank you
Look,
so
I brought
much.
you a hat.
Yeah, I love
You
it.
brought
I love
toothbrushes.
it. I love
brought
it.
you a hat.
Thank you. Wear
Myra,
this
thank
proud.
you for coming
Thank you
on.
so
I love
much.
it.
Love it.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
So you've been listening to another episode of Living United with Nashua Business, special edition today, talking with Myra Nikitas from the Traveling Tooth Fairies. If you want to learn more about their program, just Google them, look online, travelingtoothfairies.com, and learn about how they're helping our community to be safer, stronger, healthier, and happier. See you next time. Until next time, please remember, be kind to each other, because great things really do happen when we live united.